at that last no-scope kill and hit pause. It's time for the video game podcast where the Konami code is alive and well. The console wars don't exist. Rings are just as valuable as coins. Pots are not safe from swords. Giant robots kick ass. And fireballs are a perfectly acceptable weapon in a fist fight. That's right, it's time for the Super Gamer Bros Podcast Ultra Hyper Alpha Super EX Double Impact Plus 8 Live. Settle in and let's get to gaming.
Okay, anyways, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Dun, dun. You might as well finish it, Pocky.
No, I was doing the tank, so.
What's the tank?
3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Welcome
to
this week's Super Gamer Bros.
Beautiful rendition. Great way to start this one off.
Which we're talking about our favorites, and we're wrapping up today with just. I want to talk about this one just briefly because there was a time when being a geek and a gamer, if you wanted to celebrate your love for it, there wasn't any real way for you to do it. Like finding the merchandise was really hard. Only certain comic book stores would carry it. You maybe have to order it out of a magazine, but it was nowhere near as plenty as it is today. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but sometimes it is a bad thing when they slap Sonic the Hedgehog on lipstick tubes and bottles of crack. There's a point where I think things go too far, but there's some, having been in the gaming community, there's a real sense of fun in the fact that you can now get something that you really love.
Easy.
Props are a big thing. So I want to talk today about some of our favorite video game things that we own that's merchandise related. Pocky's phone's going off. She's like, hey, what? What? You can hit mute if you need to talk on the phone. That's fine.
I'm just going to message him and
one of my absolute favorite things I own is that not Nerf Needler gun from Boomco, because I love the Needler gun from Halo.
The not Nerf Needler gun.
Well, it was because Nerf did it. They nerfified it later on, but this was well, I think it was Boomco. They wanted to make them look like the weapons in the game, so that the little things light up.
Looks super cool.
Absolutely amazing piece of stuff I have.
I'll give that one to you. Full props. That looks very cool.
I've got Destiny Ghost in the house, and I've got 3D printers now, so I can actually, there's so many files for gaming statues and models and things that I can print. It's absolutely amazing. Just one, you go to GameStop, you've got Omnitools, you've got giant props from games, you've got statues, collectibles, all sorts of stuff. It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
And so when we were talking about it, I don't really own a lot of gaming. I would have figured, it's become mainstream when they make a Hallmark ornament of Scorpion, which is this year at the Hallmark store.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet?
I have. Yeah. I think Facebook threw it in front of me, and then that's tempting stuff right there.
I've got a crap ton of Hallmark ornaments already, and in October there's finally Sonic the Hedgehog and Knuckles and Tails Christmas ornaments. So it's Tails carrying Sonic, and then there's a Knuckles collecting a ring, which is an exclusive for the first weekend. And so I've already got them both pre-ordered. They look amazing.
So you don't have to fight a man who's going to pee it all over it so he gets it?
That's damn straight. So when they're making Hallmark Christmas ornaments, you've gone really, really mainstream.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pull a picture so you can see them.
Once they've decided you're family friendly enough, or at least they've designed something that's family friendly enough that they're okay with selling. That's pretty mainstream.
I've seen some of the Hallmark, actual legitimate Hallmark figures.
You have to go to the store because this is it's Chroma Keying out Tails. Let me find a better picture.
Well, the crazy thing now is that you have people who are nerds and are growing up or are entering, the industry. And so I think people are so much more comfortable with it because they grew up with games at this point. The people who are working at these places grew up with them.
And I love that.
I
love the fact that they grew up with them and we can now celebrate, and it's more inclusive. But it's going to sound horrible of me, but I kind of miss the days of when you could get a Street Fighter shirt and nobody knew what it was, and when you found someone who knew what it was, you guys were best friends forever. Now you see people wearing Street Fighter shirts who have no fucking idea what a shuriken is.
I mean, those are few and far between, though. Chances are, if you're wearing a Street Fighter shirt, you know what it is. But that's as far as I'm going to go with it, because I know what you mean. It's not quite to that point where it's like famous people are wearing metal shirts. I'm a metalhead, and the controversy with famous people wearing metal shirts is like we're not quite at that point yet.
So I think that, like, outside of this stuff, my favorite thing is that Needler gun. It is fucking fantastic looking, and I'm going to start printing some weapons from Destiny and some other things. So, what kind of merchandise do you guys have that you guys love? Because let me just say, when Cynic said he was having a kid, I searched long and hard to find a Mortal Kombat onesie.
She wore it,
and I was this close to doing a tutu dress covered in blood.
That would have been
this close.
That'd have been rough. We'll be honest. That'd have been pretty rough.
It was gonna say fatality on it. It had blood splattered.
That'd have been a hard sell to the lady. But you found a pink. I think it was the pink Mortal Kombat symbol was on it.
Yeah,
and that worked pretty well. I think she actually did get to wear that in public. So definitely worked out. She's growing super fast, so it's time to get like toddler tees now.
Now I'll start finding some Mortal Kombat toddler tees.
I know they're out there.
And another thing I didn't think about is the special edition games that come with really fun things.
Yeah,
like I do mostly digital. I think the last special edition I bought was the Aliens Colonial Marines that came with this badass statue, which I absolutely love. But like this year, they're doing the special edition of Destiny Witch Queen. It comes with the fucking hive ghost that lights up and talks to you. I'm like, it would be fun, but I don't do the physical editions of shit, and I'm not paying that much money for, just a ghost that lights up to sit on my shelf. But I'd rather just have the original ghost. But I did pre-order the Fallen Baby plush from Destiny, so I got a spider baby coming to the house. So it's fun to have it. So you guys, what do you have that you love in your memorability of outside of T-shirts? Do you have anything fun in your house?
I have it's kind of funny. Everything I've got is a gift. So yours was a gift. I've got a couple of T-shirts that are a gift. I have it's a statue of Sub-Zero. It's about yay big. And I could go grab it and show it to you. It's got interchangeable hands. You could give it daggers. It's the Mortal Kombat
You've shown this before. I remember this. It was a badass statue.
It's a very cool statue. An old friend actually gave it to me. I've lost touch with them, and I'd love to reconnect someday. But for now, they gave me that statue, and you can have the ice ball in the hand, or you can give the hands with two fists, and it has daggers in each one if you do it that way. It's just got a bunch of cool poses that you can give this Mortal Kombat X version of Sub-Zero. It's pretty cool. It's very cool looking. Ironically, I don't. YouTube will have to educate me on your memorabilia, because I really don't have much. I spend gaming money on games, and they pretty much stay there unless it's on a T-shirt that, again, someone else gives me.
Okay, what about you, Pocky?
So mine is a lot of soundtracks, actually, because I do a lot of RPGs and stuff. I mean, to me, that's merchandise as well. I mean,
for sure.
It's like I own a couple of soundtracks that I'll regularly go through on occasions. Ikenfell is one of them. It has a wonderful soundtrack. Persona, obviously, it's got a great soundtrack. All the games do. Hell, when one of them ends up actually on Japan's Billboard list of top ranking albums at the time, that tells you something.
Yeah, that's pretty insane.
Yeah, and I end up collecting a lot of that, or I've bought a couple of manga before that was involving games. Like I have read the Persona one that actually tells you finally some of the characters' names. But yeah, I most of mine is just generally soundtrack. I have to question though: is the amiibos count? Because I've got
Yes, actually, amiibos
For
and Toys
sure.
for Life do count because I got a
Yeah,
shit
yeah.
ton of amiibos, yo.
Yeah,
And you didn't even mention your pops. I'm surprised you've restrained yourself.
There's not a lot of gaming pops I have. Like I've got Qbert, Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man, and a couple Sonic the Hedgehogs and Mass Effect. Everything else is from like animes and movies and stuff.
Okay.
The Pixel Pops, the Pixel, the ones that we saw at the
convention. It's the light up ones.
Yeah, I've got those. I've always loved those. I've got the Mario one. I absolutely love the Pip-Boy one, the one that he's doing the thumbs and that. Yeah,
I have the Sonic one.
Yeah, I love my amiibos. The only ones I have the most of is the Monster Hunter from the new Switch Monster Hunter game. But that's because I get a Ninja Kitty as a figurine, so yes.
I have amiibos and characters I love from Smash Brothers, so... But the one thing that I do have a lot of, and I absolutely love, because I love how it crosses the boundaries, is the video game themed board games. I've got Gears of War, which is so much fun. I have Doom, which is fucking insane. I've got a bunch of versions of Risk. I've got Mass Effect Risk. I've got StarCraft Risk. I have Halo Risk. I have Battlefield Risk that are really fun to play. Because Risk is one of those games that it themes well to different themes with different rules. So each one has, it's the Risk rules, but there's things added like the Reapers and Mass Effect. And the Halo board is just really fucking long, like the Halo ring. Super fun. And then I have... which we played this week, was Kingdom Hearts Talisman. Talisman's starting to get into this whole themed area like Risk is, and it was fun playing Kingdom Hearts Talisman because it's just Talisman with Kingdom Hearts stuff and Disney, but at the same time, it wasn't like playing the themed version of Risk. Like, they really go all in on Risk. Like, you've got the whole board is themed, there was rules themed to it, all that stuff. This just kind of seemed like a skin. And that was about it. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of Kingdom Hearts aspects to it. But, like, if I were to pull out Mass Effect Risk, you're fighting Reapers, you're fighting, oh, God, who was the human group?
The human group in Mass Effect?
Cerberus.
Yeah, there we go, yes.
You got Cerberus players, you've got Reapers running around. If you play Mass Effect Halo, you're trying to build teleports to get, they're really well done. And then the board games, like, I haven't played the Mega Man board game, but I own it. I have played Gears of War, which is really fun, and I have played Doom, which, boy, I could fuck you over real quick in Doom, because I play the dungeon. So, but it's got amazing. It's the original Doom. It's not the second edition, so it's the original one with the big chunky figures and the badass everything. But yeah, they're starting to do more and more board game versions of video games. And I think it's fun because it bridges that gap, because not everyone plays video games, not everyone plays board games. And, usually if you play games, you'll do both. But I didn't know there's just a huge, like, dividing factor.
Yeah.
It's not video games, it's board games or tabletop.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. I've been trying to figure out how to turn Destiny into a board game. I figured out how to turn... Zombies Ate My Neighbors into a board game. Like, I've been thinking about all this kind of weird stuff, but I love board gaming that takes on video game aspects. I love it. I have the XCOM board game, and that game goes from easy to hard real quick because you have to use an app, and you have to have 4 players, and each player is in charge of a different thing, and it's just like playing fucking XCOM, and you get fucked.
I'll be right back here. Okay. And as soon as I come back, I will give you... I've actually... Pocky actually reminded me of comic books. I've got a lot of those, and I'll be right back.
See, I didn't think about that either, because I think fighting games work really well as comic books.
And manga. There was a Street Fighter 2 manga, actually, that was really, really good.
Yeah, like, those games really situate... Like, I have the Street Fighter board game that... Angry Joe kickstarted with Jasco Games. It is amazing. And they're going to bring in Mortal Kombat and some other things. It is just drop dead gorgeous board game. Badass figures, plays like Street Fighter. I get excited for things like that because, like I said, I only play like the live service games.
I just remembered something, so yeah.
Let's hit it.
I own at least the beta version. I do need to go actually and buy it, but I will own this. and it's the Fallout tabletop role-playing game.
I was never a fan of Fallout. For me, like I understand the world, I like the situation, but playing the games, I would get lost because everything looks the same. I get it's a Fallout Wasteland, but that's why I liked Morrowind and Elder Scrolls, because you had territories, you had nature, you had environments that weren't just ugly poop colored.
Well, that was kind of what's good about New Vegas. Like New Vegas a lot of it looked very different. Bethesda getting hold of a lot of Fallout, particularly now they turn it into a gigantic live service that just like nobody's liking right now. 76 is just the bane of a lot of people's existence.
Well, I don't think it deserved it. I know Elder Scrolls did well with theirs, but Fallout isn't one of those types of games. Fallout is a very backstabby, and when you really think about it, I guess a lot of apocalyptic games like that just don't work well as MMOs. It's always the fantasy type ones or the superhero ones that seem
well. You could, except the thing about Fallout is a lot of the Fallout fans who wanted it. There's actually an entire article about this, and actually how the head of the Fallout 76 production was surprised that fans were working together. They were wanting basically an always on Fortnite, a post-apocalyptic Fortnite. They thought they were going to have these big people doing all this stuff, and it turned out no, everyone wanted to work together and be Fallout, which was actually the theme of Fallout. And they were generally surprised that people wanted to work together and be a team, which was a big deal to them.
So, yeah.
The other one I was going to remember, I remembered, I don't own it anymore because it's been like about 20 years, and I, of course, lost them, but was Dot Hack had a card game that was you control one half of the board was the monsters you controlled to send to your opponents, and the other half of the board was your team, like your players who you had to defend with. So you had offense and defense.
Very nice.
Yeah, and that was there's actually a couple of. I want to wait for Cynic on this one, but there's a couple of other things that he can touch on. But yeah, there's a couple of card games involving like Street Fighter. There's the Versus card game that involved like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. So we'll wait for Cynic.
That's also the Jasco system, isn't it?
I don't remember.
No,
hey,
Jasco has a universal fighting system.
Yeah, but Cynic, you remember the Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2, and I think Killer Instinct had a card game, like a Magic the Gathering style card game.
You're probably right. They may have. I'd never owned one. I didn't hear of one or own one. But I mean, at some point, anything that's gotten popular enough has had its battle card game. You know, so.
I don't think I remember that because outside of Magic, the only card game I ever got into was Animayhem.
Yeah.
Mm. And I think maybe it was maybe a part of that, but even then, that was a very short-lived thing for me.
Yeah, same. The only card game I got into is Overpower, and the only reason I bought those cards is because the art was awesome. So it's Marvel. If you ever look up Marvel Overpower card game, their art for those cards is incredible.
Yeah, same with like the Marvel tabletop role-playing game. Somehow they got all their artists to go up overboard with the art on that book, and it's like, this is better than some of the stuff you're producing for your comics.
Yeah, super terrific.
So yeah, we briefly talked about comics and manga and card games. We're almost out of time. So what did you want to add? Yeah,
the only thing I really had to add was that I did completely forget that comics were, part of the merch medium, and I have Halo. I have the Halo comics, which do add some canon to the story. Those are pretty good. There are the Gears of War comics, which are actually really good, like surprisingly good. They add a lot of canon backstory to Gears of War. Stuff like I'm forgetting the main character from like the Shadow of Ram expansion from Part 3, but he's the dude with the big beard, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's a great character. They focus on him a lot on some of the series, but he has a lot of great backstory. There is I'm trying to think of some of the other comics that I have I have some other comics that are game related, but the big ones that stick out are the Halo Gears books. And speaking of comics, there's one series that went from comics to game, The Darkness, and that stopped at part 2, which I think
I was a huge fan of Fathom, Witchblade, and Darkness.
Yeah, I absolutely love the Darkness games. I don't know how that escaped my memory when we were talking about games that aren't a franchise. The Darkness 1 and 2, especially 1, have a real special place in my heart. Yeah. So when we're going from comics to games, I'll give it to The Darkness. I love those books.
And this was the second time I died.
Yeah. All right, so that's been we've just wrapped up Favorites Week, talking about all of our favorites. And next week we're gonna start complaining some. We're gonna have our not so favorites week.
You mean I get to complain for once?
Ooh. Oh, for once? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, we're gonna talk about characters we hate, storylines we hate, video games we hate, tropes we hate, video games, stuff like that. Things we think they've done completely wrong. So that'll be next week. So join us next week for our hate-filled video game angry week. Since we had a happy-go-lucky this week. Yeah, so rage-filled.
The clickbait, the clickbait week. Yeah.
Yeah, it may be because Grizzly Ninja's getting married soon, so he's really busy. So we may not have him back till after the wedding in a couple weeks. But he'll be back with us. And don't forget, Brad's at 3 o'clock with the Red Web. We're at 5:30 and live shows throughout the week. Game shows throughout the week. Just check us out on Facebook to find out what's going on. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in. What do you mean you don't have much gaming merch?
I just don't.
I mean, you talking
I
about
bought your daughter a Mortal Kombat onesie.
I mean, you do, and that's one of a handful of video game merch that aren't video games. So
I'm going to say this, like, yeah, you're hitting